Have they been provided to the clerk? Okay.
Now, but we can still roll it, right? Good morning. It's March 19th. I want to welcome everyone to this morning's committee meeting. I'm happy to be joined by my colleagues and dear friends, Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Reyes. And I say to my two colleagues, I thought we had a very uneventful calendar today. I don't know why we have such a big crowd. Could somebody wire the chair up? No, anyway, welcome. Welcome, everybody. We've got several items that I think we can dispense with quickly because we do have, of course, the item that has caused standing room only in this committee. So with that said, Ms. Barclay, I'd like for us to try to dispense with several items. I'm going to have you read items 1 and 2. I think we can do those really quickly.
Good morning, Meg Barclay with the CLA's office. Item 1 is a report from the Community Redevelopment Agency and the City Administrative Officer relative to memoranda of understanding for a 5-year period for basic professional and supervisory and management bargaining units.
Okay, so then without objection, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 2.
Item 2 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to executing a line of credit agreement offered by the Port of Los Angeles in an amount not to exceed $25 million.
Okay, so then on item 2, we'll adopt the CAO's report as well. And it's my understanding on item 3 that we're going to have to add some technical amendments. So could you read item 3?
Item 3 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to amending and entering into cooperation agreements with various city departments in an amount not to exceed $21.9 million over an initial 3-year period. I believe the CRA is providing technical adjustments to the clerk before the end of this meeting.
Okay, then without objection, so ordered. Item 4.
Item 4 are reports from the CRA and the CAO relative to a cooperation agreement with the Department of Public Works, Office of Community Beautification, amount of $150,000.
Okay, then without objection, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 5, we will continue. Item 5, that brings us to item number 6.
Item number 6 is a report from the Los Angeles Housing Department and the City Administrative Officer and a resolution relative to issuing tax-exempt multifamily housing bonds for Burns Manor Apartments project.
Okay, then we'll adopt the CAO report on item 6. That brings us to item 7.
Item 7 are reports from the CRA and the CLA relative to expenditure of $2.1 million from the Los Angeles Land Acquisition Fund.
Okay, then on this item, item 7, we'll adopt the CLA report. Item 8.
Item 8 is a motion, Han Parks, relative to utilizing community development block grant funds to upgrade the parking lot at Watts Labor Community Action Committee.
Okay, then we'll adopt, item 8, we'll adopt that motion. Item 10.
Item 10 is a report from the LAHD and the CAO relative to issuance of letters of commitment under Round 1 of the 2008 Affordable Housing Trust Fund and Amendment Number 1 to the 2007 Permanent Supportive Housing Program Notice of Funding Availability.
Okay, then we'll
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, wait.
The Housing
No,
Authority.
before you,
Yes.
I need to know if you have
Yes.
your proper attire.
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay. Okay, now I will speak with you.
Okay, thank you, sir. The Housing Authority had wanted the committee to be advised that with respect to the Section 8 project-based vouchers that are included as requested as part of this report, that those will be considered by the Housing Authority at its Board of Commissioners meeting tomorrow. And also that the actual number of vouchers is wrong in the report here. It's one less at 220.
Okay, so then how do we correct this? How are you suggesting?
Just could be just a technical correction to the report. I believe that the number for the Bonnie Brae Village project is 91 and not 92, and there's no change, just that the committee be advised.
Okay, that's fine.
HAC will be considering it tomorrow.
Okay, then we'll adopt the CAO report as amended. Let me ask a question. Did we need to wait for Ms. Perry to do item 11 If we want to just move that right now?
So we approve 10?
So, yeah, that's 10 is approved. Okay, so why don't, Ms. Barclay, if you could read item 11, we'll just dispense with that, and then we'll go right into item 9.
Item 11 is a motion, Perry Parks, relative to instructing the CRA to provide a status report on the land acquisition fund. We recommend that this item be received and filed inasmuch as no recommendations are required for action.
Well, I have no cards, or it would appear that none of the members of the committee wish to speak on this issue. So without objection, we will receive and file the CRA report on item 11. So that brings us to item 9. If you could read item 9. Wait. Mr. City Attorney, can I proceed?
Yes.
Is that all right? Okay. Now we can read item 9. What is this, whisper?
Sorry, sir.
I mean, whisper, you better whisper in the chairs here. Go on, Ms. Barclay.
Excuse me. Item number 9 is a report from the CRA and the CLA relative to the implementation of a construction, careers, and project stabilization policy.
Okay. Do we have reports from the various departments?
Yes, I believe staff from both departments are here.
So this is what I think we will do. We will let you give a presentation, and then I have a few people that came today to make public comment on this item. So identify yourself. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm Alex Paxton, Manager of Policy Analysis for the Community Redevelopment Agency, City of LA. I'm very happy to be here today with this wonderful showing of support.
Okay, wait a minute. Shh. Now you can go.
Thank you. With this wonderful showing of support to present this policy to you for your consideration. It's very significant for the CRA for a couple of reasons. One reason is that it really underlines that redevelopment needs to be about people, not just about building buildings, but about the people that live in the project areas, that live in the city, that need access to economic opportunity. And that's what this policy is about. It's also groundbreaking for us because, as far as we know, it's the first policy of this kind that has a local hire program and project labor agreement in private development projects from an agency's policy. So it's new. It's something that we're all working out together. There's been a lot of thought and input from all kinds of stakeholders, the whole range of stakeholders in this. We will be doing a check-in in a year to see how it's going, so we will evaluate this a year into the policy. And it was approved by our board on February 21st, and assuming that council does approve it, it would become effective once the project labor agreement is executed. So now let me go into, I'll just give you a brief overview of the policy, and of course, we'd be happy to take questions. First of all, the policy goals. There are 3 main goals that shape this policy. One is that jobs that are created by local money go to local people. Second of all, that opportunities are created for people with barriers to employment, particularly in this industry where there really are opportunities for people with barriers to reach middle-class jobs, middle-class salaries, benefits, pensions, the ability to support a family, to buy a home. This is really important. And then finally, that we make a career pathway, that it's not just a job, a single job on a prevailing wage project, which is good, but it's actually a pathway to a career. We determined which projects would be covered by this policy by looking at the types of projects that made sense. There needed to be a certain scale. We also wanted to be sure that if we're asking private developers to implement this program, that the CRA is also implementing the program itself. So for public improvement projects that the CRA itself is owning, the policy would kick in at projects of $500,000 or more, where the agency's portion is $500,000 or more. It would also cover projects that are built on CRA land that we continue to own. And then also projects where the CRA has invested at least $1 million. And this is real investment. It means a grant or a loan at terms below market land write-downs, with some exception for affordable housing. But it means a real investment on our part of at least $1 million. So those are all the CRA projects that would be covered. That we had a couple of exceptions, and again, this was based on the idea of scale, that even if there's that kind of financial investment, there may be some projects that are physically small enough where the type of construction just doesn't support this program. So we have the exceptions that are listed here, where there's under 75 residential units in the project, under 50,000 square feet of non-residential, or in the case of mixed use, where both of those criteria are under those limits. If either one is over, then the whole policy kicks in for the whole project. And finally, there are exemptions just because the law requires it at this time for projects that have federal money in them or Department of Transportation money in them. If those regulations change, then that exception would go away.
Okay.
Now, what we mean by local hiring. First of all, to make sure that local money, public money, goes to local jobs, we want to see that at least 30% of the work, the construction work on the job, goes to community area or local residents. Community area we've defined as people living within 3 miles of the project area in which the project is located. Occasionally, if there's a bigger project, Grand Avenue, something, joint project with the county or something like that, we might extend those boundaries. But typically, it will be 3 miles of the project area as a priority geographic target. And then you can also meet the 30% through what we defined as local residents. And we're defining that as City of LA residents who live in high unemployment zip codes, these red zip codes that you see on the map. And that's based on 150% of county unemployment. As you see, it covers most of our project, or basically covers all of our project redevelopment areas.
Maybe one. Yeah.
We also want to be sure that there are opportunities for new entrants. So we are asking that the 50%, half of the apprentice hours on the project, are made available to, again, community area or local residents, with a priority for community area residents. There's also a provision that requires the contractors to hire the maximum number of apprentices allowed by law. So we want to see lots of opportunities here for local people to get into the trades. And then finally, there's another category for people with barriers to employment. This is really an important focus of the policy. It's going to be one of the more challenging areas because it really takes a lot of people to make this work. But we want to see that 10% of the work hours on the project go to what we've defined as local low income. And that's someone that lives in the city and either has low household income or faces one of the barriers to employment that's on the screen, including things like experience with the criminal justice system, lack of a high school degree or GED, homelessness, and a couple of other categories. One thing that's important to note about this is that when we're talking about percentages, we're not talking about percentages of individuals, we're talking about percentages of total work hours. And that's important because we don't want someone to bring an individual on for a day and call that a job. We want to be sure that fully a third of the work on the job goes to the first category, that 50% and 10% go to the other categories. We do allow, however, for the 50% and the 10% to apply towards the 30%. One other thing about the local low-income residents, because the definition that we've developed involves determining personal characteristics, we're not asking the employers to figure that out. There's a role for a jobs coordinator that I'll describe later, and the jobs coordinator will be certifying people as local low income. So it won't be up to the employer to determine the worker's household income or their experience with the criminal justice system. That will be certified by the jobs coordinator. And also important is that the employer, individual by individual, the employer retains the full hiring authority. The employer can hire by whatever methods he or she usually uses to hire. We're not ever asking an employer to hire a specific individual, but they do need to hit those targets. Very important to this project and to the goals, to the policy and to the goals of the policy is the project labor agreement. This is the pre-construction contract with the unions, the building trade unions, to work out certain issues ahead of time. And historically, one of the main goals has been to ensure labor peace on the project, to ensure that a project gets delivered on time and on budget without disruption, that there are mechanisms for resolving disputes as they come along. And that's still very important. It's very important to us. We want to be sure these projects continue to be on time and on budget. But also, another thing that the project labor agreement does for us, which is very important, is it helps advance the local hiring policy. And it does this in a few ways. First of all, this agreement with the unions has allowed them to open up the doors of their apprentices to our targeted population. We've become, in essence, partners in this effort. And that's really important because getting into the proven apprenticeship programs is really key for individuals to get into a career. So that's essential, fundamental to this policy. Also important is that the project labor agreement can supersede underlying agreements that contractors may be signatory to with the unions, so that in certain cases where a union generally dispatches workers on a first-in, first-out policy, this would allow them to prioritize the populations that we're targeting through this policy, which they wouldn't otherwise be allowed to do. So it's a very important contract to facilitate this program. Some of the key terms that we're going to negotiate, we've just started to negotiate this. We're not there yet, but some of the key terms that we want to see in it are, of course, the local hiring terms, the labor peace terms. The PLA provides that the unions are the primary source of labor, so they will dispatch people to the job site. But again, targeting the people that we are preparing and sending to them from these geographic areas and demographic groups. It also allows for a certain number of core employees to be brought in when there are non-union contractors on the job. This, and very important to note, because this is sometimes confusing for people, the project labor agreement does not exclude non-union contractors. And typically in the region, about half of the contractors on a PLA project are non-union, so there is equal opportunity. They need to work under the system for this job, but they can work, and they can bring in a certain number of their core employees on a one-to-one basis as they're also bringing in the new employees through this program, through the unions. We're also, in our negotiations, asking the unions to monitor the retention of the apprentices that come into the program through our projects, because we really want to see, are people staying in? You know, if we can get them on the 2-week job, that's good, but we want people to be there for the full 3 or 5 years of the apprenticeship, however long it is. So if people aren't sticking, we want to find out why and try and fix that. Finally, we will negotiate this as a 3-year agreement with 2 possible 1-year extensions. And the idea is that for the period that the PLA, that the agency negotiates with the trades is in effect, any project approved by the CRA board during that period will have the PLA applied to it for the length of the project. So again, we're negotiating directly with the unions. We will incorporate the PLA into our agreement with developers on a project-by-project basis if their project is covered. They will be required to incorporate it into their contracts with their primes and subs. Letters of assent will be required. And the PLA will apply for the length of the project to that project. Is that clear? I know that's...
Yes.
Okay.
We'll ask you questions later.
Good morning. Hugo Rossiter with the City Attorney, working with Alex on this and other PLAs. I just want to be clear for this committee that the PLA objectives that Alex has described as part of the policy that is before you today are, in fact, negotiation goals. There's a tendency for one to think, oh, okay, it's a done deal. Well, that's not the case. We are at the beginning of a negotiation process with the Orange County Los Angeles Building Trades Council, and we hope to bring it home along these lines, but it's not done as we sit here.
Rarely in this business is anything a done deal. Anyway, I want to say when the CRA began the presentation, we were joined by Council Member Jan Perry.
But anyway, these are the instructions that our board has given us also to proceed with in our negotiation. Out of our many, many meetings with stakeholders, we developed our system of compliance, which is, there are 2 parts to it. Obviously, if you meet or exceed the targets, you're in compliance, and that's great. However, we heard a lot from the construction employers that they were concerned that portions of that track to compliance were out of their control. It involved the unions and the community getting people ready, and they couldn't control all those pieces and ensure that they would reach the numbers. So we developed an alternative method of compliance, which is these 8 steps that you see here. And we've really, through our experience, through the city's experience particularly, Public Works, who's been doing this for a while, we really feel that if an employer follows these steps diligently and in good faith and doesn't hit the targets, that there's a problem somewhere else in the program that we need to get into and fix. So we have this assurance that people will not be penalized for things they cannot control, but we also want to be sure that they're doing everything that we think is necessary to make this successful. Before we would get to any penalties, we'll be monitoring this regularly in partnership with the Bureau of Contract Administration. We have a cooperation agreement with them, and they'll be monitoring some of our projects and helping us learn how to do this with them. We'll be looking at regular reports. We'll be looking for signs of problems coming up, people not meeting their targets. There will be a joint administrative committee, including representatives from the unions, the employers, the CRA, the jobs coordinator, the community. And we'll try and troubleshoot before we get too far down the line. Try and figure out what the problems are and fix them. Ultimately, though, if there are just some bad actors, people that just don't want to try and get around this, there is a provision for liquidated damages. There's also a possibility that the CRA could declare the contractor non-responsible, which means that they would be barred from working with the CRA for 2 years. And there are 2 levels of appeal. Fundamentally, I've hinted at this all the way through, but this is really a collaborative process. It's been a collaborative process to create the policy, and it's going to be a collaborative process to make it work. And all the parties need to fully engage in this. Obviously, the employers need to be at the table. They need to understand this. And part of what how we're helping them to understand this is by working very closely with the city as the city develops its own PLAs, Public Works, the Harbor, and others, to be sure that we have very similar provisions to the extent that we can. We're different types of agencies, but we want people to become very familiar with how this works. We want to do a lot of outreach and training on this. The unions obviously are a key participant. We need their participation.
Well, let's hear from them.
Okay, we will.
Okay.
We also, we're going to...
No, did you hear me? Let's hear from them. So at this point, and I will bring you back, there'll be other questions. You did great, but you know, when it looks like you might have sold a deal, that's when you just kind of let it go. So what I'm going to, you don't want to talk yourself out of something. What I want to do at this time is ask you three to stay close, because I'm sure there are going to be some questions. And I just have a lot of cards from representatives of the community, and I want to afford them the opportunity to speak. So what I'm going to do is call up the names. Even though you see 2 minutes on the clock, I'm going to give you a minute and a half so that I can make sure that everybody speaks. So when we get to close to a minute and a half, I'll give you a signal, because our little buzzer doesn't work at 90 seconds. So to start this up, we're going to ask for Richard Dick Slauson to come up, and Cornell Lewis. And is Reverend Lee here?
He's not here yet.
Okay, so let me just, Dick, you can start it off. And
good morning, council members.
Good morning.
I'm Richard Slauson, the Executive Secretary of the Los Angeles and Orange County Building and Construction Trades Council. Good morning to all of you. And we're very happy to be here to participate in this report to the committee today. We're excited about the prospects of doing what we believe is the first project labor agreement with a community redevelopment agency in the United States. The city has long experience with project labor agreements with the building trades crafts on a variety of projects, everything from the Hyperion plant to other sewage treatment, water filtration plants, and also many of the new buildings that are going up, city buildings in the city of Los Angeles today. They also, the most recent agreements, about 8 of them, have the local hire policies included in these agreements as well. And I just heard yesterday that 3 of the contractors that are participating in those agreements are going to shortly receive a certificate of an award for their compliance with the local hire program, and in fact exceeding the 30% target that was included in those agreements, as well as the target in this agreement as well. So we're very excited about it, and I'd love to answer any questions. The trades have participated in these. The real benefit of this is apprenticeship and a career
Thanks,
that
Dick.
can pay and maintain a middle-class lifestyle.
Thank you. And you please stay around. There may be a question later. Mr. Lewis?
Good morning. How you doing?
Hello, my name is Cornell Lewis. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California. Came from a middle-class, poor family. One parent raised me. I pretty much got into the gang activity and everything else you want to say I did. Worked for a lot of companies that weren't non-union, worked me like a slave, never paid me much money. Worked with one company for 2 years as a laborer. Started out as manual laborer, learned how to run a forklift, power jacks, and all the heavy equipment. Gave me $1 raise, put me to $12, which everybody knows you can't make no money on that. I got opportunity to join the union. First got into the union, my first pay was 18-something an hour. I have much more opportunities to now buy a house. Look forward to retirement. If you asked me a couple years from earlier, I wouldn't have looked for no retirement. I wouldn't have knew about nobody's pension. And basically, this is a great opportunity. I'm asking you to give everybody the same opportunities that I've been given, and it works.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dane Perry, Samari Davis, and Mike Massey.
Good morning, council members. My name is Dane Perry. I'm a general superintendent with Morro Meadows. We're one of the larger electrical contractors that do work in the city. And I'd like to bring this kind of to a personal level, just with me and what I've seen with PLAs. In 1968, I was in the Army getting ready to go to Vietnam, talking to my future in-laws about marrying their daughter. My father-in-law says to me, well, what are you going to do with your life? And I go, I don't know, I want to get out of the Army. And he said, no, Dane, I'm talking about later on in your life. You remind me a lot of me. You're smart, but college doesn't seem to be the avenue for you. Have you ever thought about being an electrician? And so I got out of the Army, and that's exactly what I pursued. I am a union electrician. Being with Morro Meadows, with the other contractors that I've been with, I've been in this trade for 35 years. We have worked on PLA projects, and I have seen how this works as a complete different avenue to bring people from around within the community and to bring them in, get them a good working job, where they can learn a trade, or they can provide for their families, buy a house, and do all the things that we want to do as just Americans and human beings. This trade has been very good to me. There's a lot of bright people that are out in the community that college may not be the avenue for them. We are a shortage of skilled tradesmen throughout the country, and PLA is just another avenue and a great avenue that I think about.
And let me just stop you for a second. Mr. Cardenas has a quick question that he'd like to ask. He's right here.
Did he let you marry his daughter?
Yes.
That's because he had a union card.
Yeah, to go even further with that, I got an R&R, went to Hawaii. My girlfriend at the time came over. We almost got married there. I had 4 months left to do. I said, no, wait till I get home. I got home on a Friday night, Saturday, we got married.
All right.
Thank you.
Good.
Good morning, council members. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business...
Oh, wait, let me stop you for a second. I heard you say you're still married, so let's give him another round of applause. Wait, but to the same person?
38 years, and my youngest son is the general foreman for the company.
All right. Okay, success.
Thank you. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business agent with the Electricians Union, IBEW. We have about 8,000 members. I'm here in support of this construction careers project policy. IBEW has really made a strong commitment to ensuring that there will be members of the community that will be able to get into the union. We have a small group within the union called the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus, and every third Saturday, myself and other members within the union, electricians, all journeyman electricians, we personally tutor people who want to pass the test, and we help them on their oral interview, and we personally reach out to the community. So we're very, very dedicated to making sure that this policy goes through. We're definitely getting out into the community. I definitely want to ensure that a lot of these, because workers are very well trained, it's much safer on the jobs, and we just want to definitely support the policy.
Thank you. Thank you
Mr.
very much.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Mike Massey. I'm the Executive Director of the Piping Industry Progress and Education Trust Fund. I'm here today representing 500 signatory union contractors in the plumbing, piping, and HVAC industry and over 15,000 union members. It's nice to say you support labor, and I know you do, but the most important thing you can do is support union contractors in their ability to provide good, solid union jobs. You can support labor all you want, but if union contractors can't compete and get the job, the union guys are standing on the street. So this policy helps good, solid union contractors get work and continue to provide good jobs for our community. We create roughly 1,000 jobs every year. About 650 are apprenticeship jobs. Now, our membership is major minority, and our apprentice members earn community college credits. It's a great deal to be a member of the union plumbers and pipe fitters or organization. We ask you to support this not only so that we can continue to create those 1,000 good jobs a year. We're not satisfied with that. We want 2, 3, 4, 5,000 good, solid union American jobs each year, and this will help us get the job done. So we support it, and we ask you to support it. Thank you.
No, thank you. Bobby Henley, Jesse Hood, and Robbie Hunter. Where did that go? Okay. Morning.
Good morning. I'm Jesse Hood. I'm retired, but I was in Ironwork for 28 years. I work in many projects, family the 605 freeway, Long Beach Freeway, the Bonaventure Hotel. Now I work as outreach coordinator for 416. A lot of what I do is go into the low income to talk to young about the career of ironworker. What I see in these kids' desires to move out of poverty. They want opportunity to make a real man of themselves. A union job gives them structure to become responsible men. What I do gives me pride because many of the youth I talk to come from South Los Angeles. I grew up in Watts. In fact, I graduated in Los Angeles, Jordan in 1965, which was called the riot class, the same year Watts riot. So what I see growing up is a tough neighborhood. The neighborhood is still tough, but I'm able to something out of myself because I have a good middle-class job. Now I'm old, my knees bother me, but I have a good life because working union gave me the opportunity to make an honest living myself. I've been able to travel to see the world. I own my own home. When I get sick, I do not have to worry because I know I have a good health care plan. Most importantly, my union job gives me the ability to retire in dignity. Now at 61, I work hard to do because I'm outreach to my community, and I'm still able to enjoy the rest of my life, knowing that the hard work I put in 28 years paid off. Now I live every American dream of should today.
Wrap it up, Jeff. Wrap it up. I said we didn't have a bell. I got to be the bell.
A very community tough location iron project. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Now, Jesse didn't just come here to testify. You should know that. He also came to give me a constituent concern. So I will take care of the tree, Jesse. I will take
Okay.
That's true. First thing he said to me, write this down, there's a tree. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Bobby Henley, and I'm a steam fitter apprentice with UA Local 250. I'm here today to ask you for your support in the construction careers and project stabilization policy. This policy would mean better jobs and opportunities and a good life for many people. Growing up, I got into my share of trouble, and I remember how difficult it was working minimum wage jobs trying to raise 3 kids. I went to jail many times, and finally, the last time sent me to prison. I remember back my dad telling me I needed to learn a trade. If you have a trade, you always have something to fall back on, something solid. So I joined the apprenticeship program. As an apprentice, you work during the day while attending classes 2 nights a week. The benefits and the wages are really good. I started off at $12 an hour, and now I make over $27 an hour. I can provide for my family. I'm not frustrated working minimum wage jobs without health insurance. I have an opportunity to provide for my grandchildren. Once again, being a fourth-generation steam fitter, I urge you to support the construction careers and project stabilization policy. It's the right thing to do to make our families and communities stronger. Thank you.
Thank you. No, you should have received applause when you said you went from $12 to over $28. That was the line, my friend.
Good morning, committee members. My name's Robbie Hunter. I'm the president of the Ironworkers Union. And I'll say what I said in front of the CRA. I worked in this town many years. I drove up 7th Street, 4 o'clock in the morning, see a woman pushing a pram with a couple of kids beside her, living in these hotels down here. And I think to myself, what's going to happen to them kids? What kind of life are they going to have? You know what we've got going here in this city. You see it in the newspapers all the day. Some kid driving by and shooting another kid on a sidewalk. Those kids don't stand a chance in life in a lot of these neighborhoods. And these jobs here are going that direction. I'd invite anybody to our apprenticeship school. You see these guys covered in ink and their shaved heads from all the areas in Los Angeles. These young men, many of them been to prison and are going to spend the rest of their lives in prison. If it wasn't a chance to get a trade so they can have a decent job and have a decent life, these men become the greatest members of society, but they got to have a bit of hope and they got to have a chance in life. It's not everybody can go to college. A lot of these young people never had a father coming in with a lunchbox and a paycheck, and the whole idea, they don't even know it's out there. And that's the difference that this whole PLA and everything to do with this thing could do to this city. It could be one of the greatest things and one of the biggest deterrents for what we've got going on in this city. I recently visited his job, $37 million, cash payment all the way down to now. No state, federal, no taxes, no bathroom, no drinking water. Those workers are slaves. They're not workers. That's what some of these people want. It'll help the whole system. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Robbie, I will do the parade if I can ride with you next year. Hector Verdugo, Lisa Payne, and my friend Reverend Logan. Good morning.
Good morning. Excuse the way my voice is pretty messed up, but I wanted to make sure I came here today. My name is Hector Verdugo, and I represent Homeboy Industries with Father Gregory Boyle. Our mottos are jobs, not jails, and nothing can stop a bullet like a job. You know, I'm here to support this with, for the opportunities that'll help the population. I was looking at that map that was up there of Los Angeles, and I'm used to seeing that map. It's different though, because I'm used to seeing it with gang injunctions and gang killings, and I know that with the support, and if this passes, that we would have some great jobs, some union jobs to help the people that are involved in those gang activities and change their lives around. I said before that my brother had gotten out of prison about 5 years ago, and good thing that a good friend of ours was involved with the plumbers union and got my brother into the union, and started off as green, have nothing to do, know nothing about plumbing, and they took him under the wing. This is the way the apprentice programs works. They take him under the wing, they teach him, they send him to school twice a week, and build him for a career. And now my brother is going to be graduating as a journeyman, and he's making more than $27 an hour, and he's supporting all of his kids. He has 5 boys, and this type of opportunity will turn Los Angeles around. I got you. We'll turn Los Angeles around and give hope to our people. And I just want to say thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, thank you and congratulations to your brother. Ms. Payne.
Hi, my name is Lisa Payne, and I'm with the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing. As you all know, our core members develop affordable housing throughout the city. We support this policy because its goals are consistent with our mission, since decent jobs are an important part of people being able to afford housing. As you well know, affordable housing developments depend on public funding, including CRA funding. And both the PLA aspects of this policy and the strong local hiring aspect of this policy will be new for our members. So we will be learning and adjusting as we go. We have been very heartened by the way CRA staff has reached out to us and taken seriously our input about how the goals of this policy can be met. At the same time, our relatively small contractors have some room to adapt to it. We look forward to continue working closely with the CRA staff, with the trades, and with community organizations who've worked tirelessly to implement local hiring agreements as this policy is implemented, working closely with them as issues come up, glitches come up, and we feel heartened that we can do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Reverend?
Good morning. My name is Reverend Dr. Lewis Logan. I want to appreciate and thank our esteemed chair, Herb Wesson, and this wonderful board. It's all good to see so many friends on this board, and I know that you're in support of this construction careers policy. I work along with Lane, UJCC, with the AME Alliance with Bishop Bryant, and Pastor Bethel AME Church. I was frustrated this morning en route as I was listening to KPFK, Sonolika Hartkar's edition of her show, and she was interviewing a gentleman who has written a book entitled Gang Leader for a Day, A Sociologist Takes to the Streets. And in his interview, he disclosed the fact, and in his experience with gang leaders, that the number one issue with those who go into gang life is the fact that they don't have jobs, but they all have dreams. They don't have jobs, but they have dreams. They don't have the opportunities, but they have expectations. And these expectations, unfortunately, they utilize various means of self-destructive behavior to effectuate and realize this construction careers policy measure through the CRA that I hope that you will support will help to connect individuals' aspirations and their dreams with their need to be able to provide for their families. I support it. I hope you will too. We all are looking forward to your leadership in this regard. It's overdue. We need it in our communities. Thank you so much for your support. God bless you.
Now, you notice that Pastor Logan just stopped on his own. I was going to give you extra time. Anybody that has a direct pipeline, I want to be here with you, okay? Gene Franklin and Beverly Blake. And whoever printed these cards has excellent penmanship. Excellent. No. Not like some of the other ones. I mean, some of it is rough. Good morning.
Good morning, Councilman Wesson. I want to first thank you for this opportunity to come before you today. I am Jean Franklin, the Executive Director of United Job Creation Council, but more than that, I'm a mother of a formerly incarcerated man who spent 10 years in the prison. When he came home, there was a bleak chance of him having a job, a consistent job with livable wages, sustainable wages, good, a good paying job. So that's how I got involved with UJCC, United Job Creation Council. And we wanted to make sure that we could create jobs for those who are least able to get a good paying job, and those are the ex-offenders. But we work with the at-risk population as a whole. And very briefly, UJCC is an organization, a collaborative made up of churches, community-based organizations, service organizations, and unions. We came together more than 2 years ago with a single goal to advance opportunity for disadvantaged communities through methods that our own members have proven successful. Since that time, we've built and trained a network of over 100 churches and organizations ready to move people into real careers in high-skilled, high-wage jobs. Our members include some of the leading practitioners of construction career training and placement in the region: PV Jobs, Century Training, Youth Build, We Build, and Alameda Corridor Jobs Coalition. We've taken our community knowledge and our professional expertise, and we've set our sights on enacting policies and laws that ensure that on a citywide scale, we can actually make construction jobs a reality for those who we know need them most. The policy that's in front of you, and we just want you to back it.
Thank you.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair and members. I'm Beverly Blake. I'm a board member of UJCC and Chair of the Language and Ordinance Team. We have been honored to participate in the development of this policy for the past year. And we especially want to acknowledge the diligence and the persistence of Alex Paxton, who oversaw and directed the development of the project. As an advocate for the disadvantaged and underserved, UJCC has made a commitment to look at all aspects of the policy and, to the best of our ability, try and maximize the opportunities that can come forward out of this policy. Towards that end, we would like to draw your attention to one particular issue, and that issue is that of core workers. In the policy as described here, a contractor can call forward or ask by name 10 workers that he calls his core workers that he needs for a particular craft. In that, as he calls one worker, the union will then match that with one worker from its roles. So that means the first 20 slots that go from any craft may not provide an opportunity for an apprentice or a low-income individual from the community. We asked the committee to consider and research the possibility of having 5 core workers instead of 10. This might bring the possibility of adding 25 more community residents to any one project. And when you multiply that over the many projects,
Thank you.
that's many lives that could be impacted.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bobby Arias and Cora Davis and Robert Smith. Hello, brother.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a sixth-generation Angelino. Name's Bobby Arias. I'm president of Communities and Schools. My partner, Blinky Rodriguez, would be here today, but he's at Camp Gonzales right now as we speak, really talking about to those kids that there's a place for them to go after they serve their time and that there are job opportunities for them. I'm here to support this initiative for a few reasons. You know, we've all talked a lot and we recognize, and we've heard it today, the kids lack hope. And Father Greg Boyle is right. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. Councilman Cardenas, you have been a champion for forgotten people. All of you here have constituents that are forgotten people in your respective communities. The ultimate measurement for all we do, if it doesn't lead to gainful employment, then we have failed. Kids lack hope. This is an opportunity for you to really engage the community in a way that allows them to participate in the American dream. Now, unions have allowed us immense opportunity. We had 18 young people work the Oscars last year, an opportunity that's an indication of what can happen when kids get a simple chance. Support this. It will be another spoke in the hub-spoke delivery system we have worked with, the Ad Hoc Committee on Gangs, which many of you participate in. I think the Latin verse is appropriate today. Paraspera ad astra, through adversity to the stars. Support our nation's most precious resource, our children. Let's give them a chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby, it's always a pleasure to see you. Again, I want to call for Cora Davis, Robert Smith, going once, twice, sold. Maria Elena, please come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All of the members of the committee. On behalf of the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor and hundreds of unions representing 800,000 workers, we stand here unequivocally, enthusiastically in support of the construction careers policy. You know, I've spent almost all my life in low-wage jobs, whether as a farm worker, organizing garment workers, and organizing hotel workers. And for us to get 25 cents an hour increase, a little bit here and there, was always a big deal, because those low-wage jobs should not be poverty jobs. We have a commitment to raise those from the bottom up, and they should be middle-class jobs. Being involved now with this construction careers policy has taught me so much, not only about the extraordinary opportunities of the construction careers that are available, but also that those construction jobs aren't always good jobs unless they're union. There are sweatshops in the construction industry as much as there are in the garment industry. So we're here to say that as hundreds of thousands of workers negotiate their contracts this year and organize in the tens of thousands, we have to preserve the good jobs, we have to create more good jobs, and we have to pull people who are in poverty out of poverty and into middle-class jobs. I want to especially thank Cecilia Stolano from the CRA and Alex. They've done an extraordinary job of a long process, and that's why we're here today in such strength and unity. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I want to ask the department people to return, and
question for CRA.
okay, and we're going to start off. Ms. Perry has a question. Ms. Perry.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is a tremendous day and a wonderful policy. And I think the agency's done a good job of crafting the policy, and the fact that it's got such broad-based support speaks volumes about the quality and the depth of the work that you've done. And I think we've had a lot of really good learning opportunities as some of these larger projects begin to take shape. And you cited Grand Avenue as being one of them, and what we learned from that project is very illuminating, I think reflected in many aspects of this policy. And I think a number of folks know that I, along with Mr. Reyes, have been working on some policies. I've been working on the local hire policy for the city-funded public works projects, and I think this policy today will be a good model to follow, and Mr. Reyes has worked on his first source hiring. I think it's important for us as elected officials that we try to serve our constituents better to make sure that they get the jobs and some of the benefit of what has been taking place, and that it be spread all over the city. One thing I did want to ask you, though, is on the pre-qualified firm list the CRA has, what was the process to pre-qualify? And I'll tell you just straight up the reason I'm asking, because there's two really good organizations that are also really capable, Job Corps and WLCAC, and I don't know whether they applied or not, but tell me about the pre-qualification process, and then when that's going to, what the cycle is on that, and when it may open again.
Sure. Back in the summer, we sent out a request for qualifications to over 2,000 organizations that we compiled the list from CDD's complete list, from our own list. We solicited all the council offices to get any recommendations for organizations. So, and we publicized it in papers. We tried to do as much outreach as we could to let people know about that. We ended up having a smaller response than we were expecting, given the number of organizations we mailed to. And we heard anecdotally that many of the organizations, one of the ones you mentioned, for example, didn't want to be the lead organization in a construction jobs coordination position. Mm-hmm. When, assuming we go out and do this again for permanent jobs, I think a lot of those organizations would participate. Also, we do encourage partnership on these programs, so hopefully a lot of those will be involved as partners, not as the prime necessarily, but as the partner. It's a 3-year list. Okay. If we think we need to go out again, we could do that but I think we haven't heard back from anyone uncomfortable.
And when are you going out on the permanent jobs list?
That's hard. I don't know. Hopefully by the summer, but I don't have a firm timetable for that.
And would you use the same distribution list on that as you did on the jobs coordinator position outreach?
Well, that would certainly be our base. I mean, to the extent we could solicit additional information, we would do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Reyes. In fact, Mr. Reyes, before I do want to say you did a good job, Alex, in an excellent presentation. Mr. Reyes.
Yeah, I saw the frustration on your face when we had to move on, but appreciate all your hard work and everything that you're doing here. But I did want to ask, Councilman Perry mentioned the various efforts we've been putting in place. I know it's a delicate issue when dealing with negotiations, because each area has their own specific issues and needs and personalities. Given what we're proposing to do, when do you see us reaching some kind of culmination point with the negotiation? Like, what is your time frame like? Is there a target? If that's not something you want to answer, I understand, because it's a delicate issue, but...
No, our board would like, and we had proposed to our board, that we try and conclude negotiations within 90 days from the board approval, which was February 21st. We don't want that to be a hard and fast deadline, obviously, because if we're making progress, we want to continue to the end. We have committed to going back to our board for a report back on negotiations on April 17th. So right now, I don't know if Hugo, if you want to add something, we're in very early stages. Obviously, it depends on the party that we're negotiating with as well, but I think everyone around the table would like to see this happen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I was asked that same question in front of council last week. The answer is we're trying to move it forward as rapidly as possible. We just don't have a specific time frame, say, yes, we'll be done 60 days from now.
So it's a target, but
right.
It's to be seen.
Yes.
Okay. The other question is, when we talk about performance and we talk about impact, do we have a way by which we can measure, let's say, number of beneficiaries? We've described where we would like to see the impact have its greatest impression given access to jobs. Do we have a way of measuring who is in this field of work in all its trades, and what's the increase, what's the incremental increase of beneficiaries? Are we set up in our way we document our progress to say in 1 year we had X amount of jobs, we had X amount of neighborhoods impacted, we have been able to get so many companies, so many union participants to absorb X amount of individuals? Do we have that ability to measure?
Can I call up my colleague Jose Ramirez or John Reamer, if either one is still here, to help me with it? The Bureau of Contract Administration has really been leading the way for us in terms of collecting and analyzing the data. Okay. If I understand your question, it seems like there's a baseline measurement that needs to happen, and then...
Well, the assumption is we want to know people performed. I mean, the general public is going to say, look, you got a construction job here, but I don't know any of those people on that site. They'll call our office and say, why aren't our neighborhood youngsters on that job site? Then I would like to say, well, according to this report,
oh, yes.
we have X amount of people from this neighborhood,
yes.
or this, however you want to define the geography, but we need to know this is the baseline, this is what we have right now, because the unions have been doing in the past a great job, I believe, in trying to bring in local folks, but here we are using our leveraging capacity with our resources and our contracting capacity to elevate that performance. So what is the measure of that elevation? How did we perform?
Okay.
Well, one of the many things that we're trying to accomplish in our discussions with the building trades and with contract administration and the payrolls that they assemble and the data that comes back to them as contractors perform work is that it's very important that we find a methodology of being able to track who's coming into the program. This is particularly true at the apprentice level, and then how many of those apprentices remain in the apprentice program and grow to become journeymen over a multi-year period. And that's a developing that database is actually one of the significant discussions that we're having. We don't have an answer for it yet, but we know the data exists. We just have to figure out how to collect it in the most efficient fashion. And that partly involves information coming from the trusts in terms of contributions from the unions and from the payrolls that are submitted to Con Ed.
And certainly job by job through the certified payroll, which employers submit anyway to document prevailing wage, we'll be able to tell, in each month or each quarter, how many from each category are being hired, what their zip codes are. The jobs coordinator will be tracking the barriers, so that will contribute to the whole picture.
One last piece. Now I'm going to complicate what's already a complicated process and issue. But when I go to a family who has suffered a tragedy because their son or daughter was shot to death, and you talk to the parent, and they have cousins, they have nephews, they have folks who are in the probation process, they're going through probation, and they're saying, well, all I need is to find a way to get this individual a job. I need to get them out of the house, off the street. I need to get them a job. To me, that speaks to a list of people on probation within our neighborhoods who are unemployed. Are we going to contemplate in any way looking at those people on probation, people that are out of prison, who need a job? Are we going to go there? Are we going to be able to coordinate identifying these youngsters on probation who need a job? I mean, are we going to be able to explore that realm of work?
Absolutely, and that's a really important role of the jobs coordinator. That was the only reason I was a little frustrated, is because the jobs coordinator is when I was doing my presentation, the jobs coordinator is such an important piece of this, both as the individual organization that will be leading that effort, but also as the pipeline for all the efforts that we're going to be working on with the community. I mean, the community has been very engaged in this and is going to continue to be very engaged in reaching out, particularly to even within the populations that we're targeting overall, within that certain sub areas, if it's criminal justice experience, whatever that might be, that's our work as the city and the community groups, really targeting who we reach out to, who we inform of these opportunities, who we then prepare to get into these positions.
And there's a last question, Mr. Chair, is in the 80s and late 70s, there was this concept called work ethic skills, and all the poverty programs since the 60s has had a different label for that process of how we get individuals to say, I need to get up in the morning and actually put on my clothes and actually walk to work, or I need to be able to listen and follow instruction. I need to be able to make my reports. Are those work ethic skills occurring at the job coordinator level? Is it before that, or is it part of the apprenticeship experience and discipline?
Well, it really needs to happen before the apprenticeship, because by the time they're accepted in an apprenticeship, they need to be able to show up to work on time. They may need to pass a certain kind of test. So it's from the jobs coordinator for the specific project, but even more, the city has been working on this. The work source centers, the community-based organizations, the churches, they've been really focusing on this for a couple of years now, on just getting people ready, as you say, the work readiness skills, the kind of core fundamental skills an employee needs, getting people ready so that now as we're open, now the CRA can open up our opportunities to this pipeline with the unions as the sort of connecting piece in the middle. Yes, absolutely. Those skills will happen all the way up to the apprenticeship and probably be enforced through the apprenticeship program.
It would be helpful if each council office that's impacted by the high number of tragedies and killings and poverty, if we knew where those entities exist, if we had lists of where these services actually allow for youngsters to go to that level of preparation. It does us no good to say, go to the apprenticeship program, and they have no clue that they have to be there at 8 a.m., that they have to get up at 6 a.m., that they have to get, they have to shower and actually get ready. I mean, it sounds ridiculous for some folks, but for others, we're dealing with a lot of hardships. And it's a pivotal point. In my mind, it's great to have all this, but we can't get them there. It's not going to happen.
Right.
And so if we can find a way for our respective districts to understand who's doing that work,
Sure.
that way we know how to facilitate getting them to you. Because that's the big gap that I see when we're dealing with the gang violence and the high dropout rate and the drug issues that are impacting our areas. So I think that's a component that we need to amplify somehow.
We can put together a simple information piece for your offices you can hand out, your staff can use, that can tell you how to direct people and where to go for the programs that will lead them into this and get them ready for this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Yeah, I'd like the people listening in to understand what it took to get here. How long have you been working on this specific project, this policy?
Well, the actual concept for the policy has been talked about at the agency since 2005. I started at the agency exactly a year ago today, and my first and primary charge was to get this policy done. And that's pretty much, I mean, I've worked on a few other things, but that's pretty much been my full-time job for a year.
Okay, so you've been working on it full-time, but you've had to interact with other professionals, other individuals who have brought to the table. For example, you needed to make sure that what you did could pass the legal muster, that you're basically talking about the potential for contracts.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of legalese and checks and balances that need to be put in place in the language. It's not just about saying, we want to do this, these are our goals, and put together a 2-page piece of paper saying that, with bullet points, saying this is what we want to do, correct?
Yes, absolutely correct.
So there was a lot of intricate details that need to be thought out about how many individuals actually contributed to the final product. Professionals, people who had to give their expertise, people who had to apprise you of the warnings or the pitfalls that you need to make sure you don't embody in this, and make sure that it's a document that's sustainable. Round it off to the nearest 20.
Well, I mean, really, that kind of information came from all the constituencies. I mean, obviously, the city attorneys played.
They don't have to be paid to be professionals,
Right.
to help. I mean, how many people came to the table and helped put this together?
100, maybe. I mean, including the business community, the community, the work source professional, the jobs coordinating type professionals, maybe 100. I mean, yeah.
So basically, at least 100 or more individuals actually came to bear and added to this and contributed to this and made it the superb document that it is. I'm calling it a superb document. I think it is, in fact, the real deal. I really do believe that this is going to have the impact that it's intended. But the reason why I want to make sure that people understand that is because if we, the council, the policymakers, would have got excited about this and said, whoa, wonderful, you started this a year ago, I want you to finish this in 90 days. Could you have done the product that you have done over the last year in 90 days?
No.
Why not?
Because this really is groundbreaking. I mean, again, there's been some work on this in the city. There's been some other jurisdictions doing this on public works projects, but we're really breaking new ground. And as each different constituency took a look and made comments, another constituency would have, comments in return, and it really needed to go through the full thought process to reach all the different parties. When I started, we were hoping to have it done last spring. And it's very complicated, it's very intricate, and we really did want to think all that out carefully.
So it took you a year. Was it because you just didn't put the energy into it, or you found yourself, no, seriously, did you find yourself, the more you put into it, the more you realized, the more you learned, the more you had to add to it, the thicker it became, the more words that needed to have, the more care that you needed to put into it, the more intricacies that perhaps in the first 30 days, you didn't even realize those were going to be part of the final document. Was it something like that, where the more you were involved, the more you realized that it's more complicated, yet at the same time, here we are with a final product that is superb?
You described it exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not crazy, because I'm trying to do that on some other issues in the city, and some people are thinking that we could just turn on the switch and overnight, the lights are on and everything's just fine.
Well, Mr. Cardenas, we had one vote from Mr. Reyes that said you were not crazy. We had one vote from Ms. Perry that said that you were. She votes for crazy.
No, I said it was debatable.
Oh, wait, now he shifted. He said it's debatable. Okay. Anyway.
But with all due respect, my dialogue with you right now was to bring out the fact that some tremendous work was done, groundbreaking work has been done, and it's a compliment to your commitment, and it's also a compliment to the people who are also committed to this, and many people who didn't get paid to contribute to this document, but ended up contributing to this document and this effort because of who they want to serve. Everybody that talked about the families who have people who go to jail and they come back out and they need a job, the families who have people who have been killed and they don't want their other siblings or their family to end up in that situation, and the best thing to do is get them into the mainstream and get them where they belong. And there are opportunities out here where people don't have to work like slaves and not live a life of dignity, but they can in fact get a job where they can have benefits, where they can actually not only dream of buying a home, they can actually do that. So the reason why I wanted to have that dialogue with you is because I don't want anybody to believe that this was easy. I don't want anybody to believe that this is not groundbreaking. I don't want anybody to get the impression that this kind of stuff just happens overnight, because good work like this takes a lot of tremendous effort, and it takes perhaps as much volunteer work as it does people who are professionals getting paid to be the point people on this. So I just wanted to compliment you and thank all of you for the wonderful work that you've done, and that is truly the way good policy gets done. Thank you.
And I just want to echo that and again say, Alex, good job, good presentation, and thank everyone who participated. So with that said, without objection, we will adopt the CLA report. So let it be written, so let it be done.
Thank you.
At this time, thank you. At this time, we're going to have public comment. I have Chuck Tennant. Now, Sergeant, let them, they're happy. It's okay. They can be noisy for a little bit. Chuck Tennant, please come forward. Is Arnold Sachs?
Hey, regulars.
Yeah. Chuck, the floor is yours, and if Mr. Sachs could come forward.
Good morning, Housing Committee, Honorable Wesson. You've helped me before, Herb. I'm here today to ask for your help to help my friends. Saltwater recreational fishing and boating plays a vital role in the city's economy. The implements and impact of the MLPA.
Okay, guys, we are going to have to keep it.
You're
going to have to let the man give his testimony.
Losing my time there.
No, I'll get you.
The closure of recreational offshore resources will directly affect the city of Los Angeles and its people. The loss of $100 million in local economy, and the city of Los Angeles will lose millions of dollars in needed city tax revenue. The impact will hurt us all. Taxpayers, city of Los Angeles, county, the boating industry, the automobile industry, dealers, hotels, manufacturers, retail sporting goods stores, and the buying public. It will initially affect over 61,000 anglers in California and many thousands of boaters. It will affect $1.3 billion in equipment and services and expenditures. Add boating, it's $2.3 billion, plus the loss of 20,000 jobs. Our state government is a conservatory of the people. Teddy Roosevelt proclaimed the recreational areas off our coast to the people, access to the people. The presidents and the partnerships for sustainable oceans and coalitions are committed to protect this environmental impact in the city of Los Angeles without having unnecessary massive closures. They would like to speak before this committee to give you all the facts and figures and how very soon it will directly affect the city of Los Angeles and the loss of tax revenue, the people, and the quality of life in the surrounding areas. Implementing this action without careful consideration and due process will have disastrous consequences for regional and local economies. I can tell you a lot of things, but if you think the local economy is bad now and our city's hurting for revenues and budget deficits, can this city afford to lose more revenues and the quality of life for its people that will have a devastating effect? $100 million in local economy and city revenue, city tax revenue is going to go down. They would like to speak before this committee in full and do a presentation to show you the facts and figures.
We'll talk about that, Chuck.
Okay. Thank you.
Sachs.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Arnold Sachs. I've come before you previously on the items I'm going to discuss, but I still haven't gotten anywhere with it, but I'm going to come back again and ask for an update. The Grand Avenue project just received new funding. I'm just curious to find out, according to the articles in the LA Times, which take with a grain of salt, so much so what, the owner of the Bonaventure Hotel sued because of the Grand Avenue project would violate a previous downtown redevelopment plan by adding too many housing units to the area. He wouldn't have sued the developer, he would have sued the city because it was a redevelopment plan. So evidently the city settled with the owner of the Bonaventure Hotel, gave the developer for the Grand Avenue project tax breaks to develop the project, and changed the redevelopment status for the area. City and the public got hammered twice. I'd also like to know, very quickly, I've seen in some of the city council agenda items, communications from the CRA. I've questioned the Housing Committee about the CRA, CLA report, CRA, CAO report, the fact that very rarely do you accept a CRA report. Could somebody explain what a communication from the CRA would be? And finally, two items, especially one today and then one from January 23rd, you have two items from the CRA. Today's item is CRA to provide status report on land acquisition funds, and the 23rd you had a CRA report for status of CRA investments. Both times when you would want an outside agency to have an additional report on the CRA, neither one has an outside agency involved in it. Other items, when the CRA is giving a report with another city agency, it's the city agency's report that's accepted by the committee here. Just doesn't make sense. Why would not the CLA or the CRO or whoever do a report on CRA investments instead of having the CRA investigate themselves? Thank you for your time and your answers.
Thank you. Okay, any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
And this committee's adjourned.
Sure.